Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we'll be playing another premiere draft of Wilds of Eldraine. Without further ado, let's get into our Pack 1 Pick 1, which is probably just going to be the rare here, Talion's Messenger. By itself, it is a flyer that's going to keep drawing cards, discarding cards as it attacks, so looting through your deck, trying to find what you need, and buffing itself up, putting counters on itself. If you have more fairies in your deck or on your board, then you can start putting counters onto those instead if you want, and potentially you can trigger this the second you play it if you have a 2-mana fairy on the board already that has already gotten rid of its summoning sickness. So pretty nice card here, and it is going to be the strongest card in the pack. There are actually a few commons and uncommons I'd probably take over this just because I'm not a huge fan of blue in the format, but this pack outside of the rare is not particularly powerful, so I think we are still just supposed to go for the Messenger. My other favorite cards here are primarily the Ratcatcher Trainee and the Shrouded Shepherd, but we'll start off with the Talion's Messenger here. For Pack 1, Pick 2, we do see a very solid follow-up to the Messenger. If I want to try to hop immediately onto the Fairy Train and hope that it is open here, we could take the Obira, Dreaming Duelist. She's going to be making our opponent lose life every time we're playing more fairies, and she's a 2-mana fairy, so we can play her turn 2 and then the Talion's Messenger turn 3. And that's a pretty excellent curve if we can get that going, so I think that's a pretty nice follow-up to Talion's Messenger. If I want to stay a lot more flexible, the Edgewall Inn is a super great choice as well, as this will make it into our deck no matter what colors that we end up in. So that is also a pretty reasonable card to take. Might even just be the better card to take. It depends on what kind of way you prefer to draft, playing it nice and safe, taking cards you're definitely going to play, or getting a little risky with it and taking the card that is going to be a bigger payoff if things work well and this color pair is open. You know what? I'm actually going to go for the Edgewall in here, because it is possible, if nobody else tries to draft blue-black fairies, that card wheels, and that would be like a really good indicator that that path is clear. So we could do that, where I take the Edgewall in that makes it into our deck no matter what, and then if not Talion's Messenger, but Obira's Attendant makes it around the table back to us, that's when we like fully just hop onto that fairy path there. So this leaves us a little more open. I don't want to get like overcommitted here. I had a draft go pretty poorly recently because I just immediately overcommitted and passed up like a red rare when I should have just hopped onto red early. So try to play it a little more open here. For Pick 3, this pack is relatively weak. I like the Threadmine Click if we can splash in the Adventure or the Fairy half of it. I like the Hollow Scavenger, just as a great green creature. The Grand Ballgast is a great red creature, and the Rat Out for a black spell. But nothing super exciting for a Pick 3. I'll just take the Threadmine, since we are one card deep into blue, and it's pretty equally comparable with those solid commons. For Pick 4 now, not a ton of great stuff again. There's a Spear Guard for aggressive red decks. I do like the little 1/1 haste that replaces itself. Archon's Glory is a fine combat trick in white aggressive decks. Return from the Wilds is nice if you have a bunch of Hamlet Gluttons. Ruby's fine for those red-green ramp decks. These blue and black cards are really just not that exciting. I suppose with a Threadmine Click in the deck, Snare Master Sprite does, or not Threadmine Click, but the Talion's Messenger, getting my cards mixed up. With the Talion's Messenger in the deck, the Snare Master Sprite does get a bit better, where it might be getting +1/+1 counters on it. But yeah, nothing really exciting here at all. I'll just take the Snare Master Sprite. I don't think we're missing out on much by taking a weaker card on color, just because there's not much going on in the pack in general. And now there's a Barrow-Naughty, which is really nice for the blue-black fairies deck. If this is a 2-mana 1/3 flying lifelink with its little ability to buff its power, then you're getting quite good value off of it. So I like that Barrow-Naughty. I also like the Feed the Cauldron. But there's a lot of excellent removal in black that is better than the Feed the Cauldron, the best one being, of course, the Candy Grapple. But there are several uncommon removal spells that are also better, so hopefully we can find some of those instead, and maybe try to take this Barrow-Naughty, see if that's that blue-black fairies card wheels, because now we're actually just really deep into fairies anyway, because we haven't seen anything great off-color regardless. Which could make the trying to wheel the fairy uncommon, it could make that pan out really poorly for us, where somebody sees that as a signal to hop on to blue-black fairies, and then now we're fighting over that color pair. that would be awkward. But again, looking at these packs here, it does look like one of the most open color pairs for now from this direction. Maybe it won't be from the left, again, because we passed the fairy uncommon. Because now we've got... I mean, this pack's just really weak in general, but I think the best cards are like probably Transmuter or Armory Mice, and they're both kind of whatever. I'll take the Crystal Grotto here for more random fixing. That can help get the white splash into the deck for the off-color adventure of the Threadbind click. And now Spell Stutter, not Spell Sputter, looks pretty good for a blue-black fairies deck. We can keep down that direction, and it's one of the better cards in this pack. Not much going on in terms of high power level stuff. I like the Firebolt enough in like blue-red, the Light Blades in like blue-white more controlling builds. But with the cards we have right now, Spell Stutter's looking pretty nice, even if we aren't in black. We've got plenty of fairies in blue. This pack is pretty devoid of playables. None of these cards are cards I'm interested in playing in anything. But the Snare Master Sprite is definitely the closest to what we're doing. For pick 9, Diminisher Witch can play pretty well in blue decks, because if we can manage to find a Hatching Plans, then we do really want some bargain cards like Diminisher Witch in the deck, so could speculate on finding a Hatching Plans, but it could also just play a Shrouded Shepherd. Splash in the creature half and just have a Cleave Shadows in here. And again, we're not tied to black yet, so I guess I'll take the Shrouded Shepherd. It is the strongest card. In pick 10, we did not get the Fairy build around uncommon to come back, which is not a good sign for hopping into blue-black fairies. But again, we're only one card into black right now, so we can take the Into the Fae Court. The only thing we know for sure, we're definitely blue, and the nice thing is we have enough fairies out of blue alone to make our Talion's Messenger perfectly reasonable, and the card's already powerful by itself. So, might have a different secondary color, not sure here. I do like Grand Balgast a good amount. I think I can scoop that up there. And there's just tons of Archon's Glories too, so maybe that's the reason to speculate white. Again, no really big reasons to be on any particular secondary color yet, but hopefully that can change as we move into pack 2, pick number 1. We do see a Moonshaker Cavalry, which is an 8 mana card. Pretty hard to make it to 8 mana. But if you do, you just win the game if that resolves. Charade is much more easily castable, much more easily splashable off of a Crystal Grotto or Edgewall in, and just really solid value at the 4-drop slot. I think I'm just going to take the Charade here. 8 mana is just so much, especially with that triple white as well. That is a super restrictive cost. Now for pack 2, pick 2. Nothing really for blue, so we have to take something off color. We take the High Fae Negotiator for black. Just a really nice card to stabilize. It's a large flyer with a super big amount of toughness to help block opposing creatures, and you can drain them for life when you play it to stabilize your life total. There's Hamlet Glutton, which is the green version of High Fae Negotiator if we want to push towards green. And I think those are the most exciting to me here, because we are going to be a little slower, a little more controlling just by being in blue. I guess since we do have a Baronati, the High Fae Negotiator feels a little better than scooping up the Hamlet Glutton right now. And this could be a Curiosity deck. We have 3 Snare Master Sprite in here, so we have 3 1-mana 1/1 flyers to put this onto. You really want to try to use this when your opponent's tapped out, so you can get at least 1 card draw from it guaranteed, so that you don't get 2 for 1. You just put this on the Snare Master Sprite, hit your opponent for 1, draw your card, and then if they kill the Snare Master Sprite next turn, whatever, you spent 1 mana to draw 1 card. And if they don't kill the Snare Master Sprite, then you can pop off with it, so I think this is actually the kind of deck that could legitimately use Curiosity. I mentioned this card a lot in a lot of decks that don't end up playing it. This is the one time I think I'm actually drafting it here. With all these little blue flyers. Pick 4, we could take another Crystal Grotto. I think that's actually pretty legitimate. I'm not going to speculate on opening up a Hatching Plans in pack 3 and just taking another Diminisher Witch just for that here. I think I'm just going to take the card that is a little bit better in a wider variety of situations. It's going to help us do more splashing for these charades and rip the seams and stuff like that. Could splash in a Torch the Tower even at this point. Off of Crystal Grotto's Edgewall-in style cards. See if we can find some Prophetic Prisms as well, but I can also just take a Fairy Dream Thief. And we're just blue-black at the core, splashing a little bit of white right now. I am really low on interaction. So Torch Tower is pretty tempting, but got some great fairy cards. I'll scoop up the Dream Thief here. Another Threadbind gives us another removal spell, even if it only hits tapped creatures. I think that's pretty good. Ice Out's nice as well. But I'll take the 2-for-1 adventure removal spell creature with the Threadbind, and we get a second Charade as well for very solid value off the splash. Minstrosity for a 2-drop creature on curve, or a Spell Stutter or Disdainful Stroke for a counter spell here. We certainly have the fairy count for Spell Stutter. Got like 6 right now at least. I think Spell Stutter looks pretty good here. It's where it's actually probably better than Minstrosity. Get an Ice Rot Sentry, which is fine by itself, but it's pretty exciting with double Charade. If we ever have a Charade on board with an Ice Rot Sentry, we might get a lot of value from that. Tapping something down, drawing a card every time we do that. Alright. I mean, we didn't get the blue-black fairy uncommon, but we're still just kind of a blue-black fairies deck anyway. Just mainly a bunch of cheap little flyers and stuff to throw curiosities onto. Try to play a tempo game plan where we're flying over their small creatures and spell stuttering their big ones. Looks very reasonable to me, and a rat out fits perfectly in this kind of deck. Get some 2-for-1 value plays like the Charades that hit the board as a blocker and draw us a card, the Threadbinds that can kill a creature and give us another flyer. The Into the Fey Court's a 3-for-1 because it's a draw 3. It's looking pretty legit. Alright, let's see what we get in pack 3. We've got double Crystal Grotto and Edgewall-in, so if we get a powerful off-color card, if it doesn't require a ton of mana of whatever its color is, probably fit it in here. We do not, but we do get a powerful on-color card. Tangled Colony is wild when you're an aggressive deck, or just when you're in an aggressive position in general. I'm a little bit less aggressive than I would ideally want to be for Tangled Colony, but I still think it's good enough to take over the Baronati here, even though we're not going to get that back. I guess maybe with Curiosity we still take Baronati over it, but this card is really, really good in aggro, because your opponent just can't afford to, like, trade a 2-2 off into it super easily, because then, like, your 2-mana card is trading into theirs and leaving behind 2 aggressive little attackers, which is super, super sick. I don't know, I like Tangled Colony a lot, but this might not be the best deck for it because we're not actually that aggro here. Maybe the Baronati is just better for this deck. Just another life-linking flyer to throw Curiosity onto, maybe. Here, we can take a Shatter the Oath for late-game removal, or Gingerbread Hunter for some early-game removal. We get to cast Puny Snack, as well as being able to splash this in off those Crystal Grottos. We get to get the 2-for-1 there. And I'm going to take the 2-for-1, take the Gingerbread Hunter. Hilda is quite powerful if you have a lot of tapping in your deck, but we have 3 different ways to tap something. I think that's a little bit low to go all in on the Hilda here. Let's just grab another removal spell that comes with a creature attached for late in the game. Okay, and now I'll take Baronati here. Sweet Tooth Witch is a great card. Hopeless Nightmare is a great card. These are awesome cards in other kinds of blue-black decks, or really just black decks in general. But I think the Baronati is great for this kind of tempo-y deck that's trying to win off of a bunch of flyers. It's got a lot of fairies to get that lifelink for the Baronati, and it's got the Curiosity to really want as many flyers as possible. So I'm going to take the Baronati over these two. Now we've got a whole lot of nothing. Anything to splash in here? Nope, not really. I'm just going to rare draft a Hardened Scales, honestly, but Misleading Motes would not be horrible. I'm still not that high on interaction, on removal spells and stuff. Take a Sweet Tooth Witch, a Diminisher Witch, and that is about it. I think I'm going to take the Crystal Grotto over those for the double Charade, double Click, and Gingerbread Hunter. Definitely does look like a triple Crystal Grotto deck. Easy Vantress Transmuter here. Just a little 2-mana Cursed Roll interaction. And a 4-drop creature. We get a pick 7 Barrow Naughty. I'm really excited about that. That's actually really nice for the deck. Definitely better than Not Dead After All, the Lectern, the Alchemist, or the Leyline of Anticipation. Maybe we will get that first Barrow Naughty back if we're super lucky. We'll see. Fingers crossed, see what happens. Pick 9. We did not get the first Barrow Naughty back, but we got 2 other copies anyway, so still worked out fine, I think. Let's just start hate drafting, because I can't play any of these cards anyway, so goodbye, Ash. And could play Moats. I don't think I will. Hate drafting is something you should basically never do on Arena, so the general pick order is draft normally, draft what's best for your deck, that is number 1, and then if there's literally nothing you're going to play, then number 2 is draft for your collection, just rare draft, which is why I hold down the Alt key and it shows off how many of everything I own here. But then, if you own everything in the pack, and there's nothing in there for your deck, then I'm like, okay, then I'll just take the strongest uncommon card at that point. The strongest, highest rarity card. Which is basically just hate drafting, but there's literally zero purpose to hate drafting on Arena because the odds of you playing against the people in your exact draft pod are monumentally low. So I don't really think we need to do much deck building here because we have 4 lands in this deck. So, like, we probably get to cut 2 or 3 cards total when we get to the deck building, so this should be a quick one. And indeed, we are at a 43 card deck right now, so we just get to cut 3 non-lands, get it nice and quick here. Kind of think we need to leave Transmuter in here, because we don't have much to deal with resolved creatures. Actually, hold up. Okay, maybe not vigilant creatures. Maybe we can't deal with those, but we can -2/-2 small creatures, and we can destroy large tapped creatures. 2 ways to destroy any size tapped creature. 1 way to -2/-2 small creatures, 1 way to -1/-1 really small creatures. Maybe we actually do have interaction. It's just on our creatures instead of our spells. And I'll still have 1 Cursed Roll off the Diminisher Witch. It's a bit of a better deal than Transmuter generally, if we have the bargain fodder, but I suppose this deck does not have a ton of bargain fodder, does it? No, it really doesn't. Because Tangled Colony might make some rats for bargain fodder. That is it off of our creatures until Gingerbread Hunter, which is a really late game play because we have to wait till we hit a Crystal Grotto or something for it. Yeah, we do not have bargain fodder, actually. Diminisher Witch looking really bad. Is there any other bargain in this deck? I don't think so. Oh, High Fae Negotiator? That's still a really big body, though. Even without the bargain fodder, a 3/5 flyer. Okay, so I actually do want Transmuter over the Diminisher Witch then, and Transmuter gives us a Cursed Roll to bargain towards the High Fae Negotiator, but I suppose not going to be often I want to bargain a Cursed Roll. I've got a Rat out, a Tangled Colony, 2 into the Fae Courts to maybe produce bargain fodder. Curiosity we can bargain away, but it's another card I'm not really going to want to. Yeah. I'm happy that I only have 1 bargain card in here, because I think it's already going to be kind of hard to bargain for it. For the High Fae Negotiator, but I think it sticks in the deck. I could ditch the double Charade here. Because Charade is the only splash in the deck that needs its color of mana to be useful. Because even if we don't hit white, we can cast these as 3/3 flyers. Even if we don't hit green, we can cast Puny Snack for early removal. So all of the other splash nonsense, I can just play purely Islands and Swamps and just Crystal Grotto and Edgeball in for and not feel bad about it. But Charade, if we don't hit a white source, is doing literally nothing because we're not casting Charade then. Yeah, I think we have decent card draw value without the Charades, and that makes the mana like really, really easy. It's basically impossible to not be able to cast our spells. Because then the splashes are just like, I still Puny Snack, and I still Threadbind Click. I just might not Rip the Seams, I might not Gingerbread Hunter. I think that's fine, and I'm not even going to play a forest, I'll just have these 4 green sources. Blue versus black, what do we got? 14 blue cards and 7 black. Alright, 7th island, come on in. I know we've got a double black spell, but we've got 2 double blue spells and more blue in general. So I'll go 7/6 there. Triple Grotto Edgewall in. That is 17 lands, which I think is reasonable here. We'd like to get to that 5 mana slot, start casting into the Fey Courts for our card draw. But yeah, I mean, the Charade, I do like the general value of tap, stun a creature, and draw a card, but we've got double into the Fey Court for big card draw and Curiosity for small card draw. We've still got quite a bit of just card advantage, little value stuff in here, and Candy Trail as well. Early little card draw, if we need that. Like, maybe it is better to be a little more bold here and drop like 1 Candy Trail for 1 Charade or something. But I think this looks pretty solid to me. So I am gonna call it a deck here. Alright, I have made one final decision here. I'm actually going to put at least 1 Charade back in, because I'm looking back over the deck, and Charade's solid value by herself, and she's also potentially drawing cards off Snare Masters and Transmuter and Ice Rot Sentry. I was mainly just thinking of the Ice Rot Sentry there. We actually do have 6 different cards that can also maybe draw us an additional Charade card. So I think Charade is actually worth the splash in here. Maybe, I mean, 1 for a Candy Trail. Don't know about the second one, because don't want to cut one of the sprites if we're putting both Charades back into the deck. Don't want to cut the Sentry. Be like maybe the High Fae Negotiator, maybe the Tangled Colony. I certainly don't want to cut a non-creature. I don't know, I guess I'll cut the Colony for like the 0 synergy there and run the Negotiator. I guess the Negotiator also makes us need double black at some point, so if I cut Negotiator instead of the Rat, I also get to drop a Swamp for a Plains more easily here, which I think is legit. Then we're really heavy on blue, no double black cards, so we can drop to 5 Swamps, and we've got a Plains Triple Grotto Edgewall in for the double Charade. Yeah, I think I like this a little better. Keep that Colony in here, see if that does anything for us. We will call it a deck here. Alright, here is our final deck list for today. We're on a blue-black fairies deck with a bit of a white splash for some of the Ice Princess themes with a couple copies of Charade. So at the core of the deck, we have a bunch of cheap flyers with 4 Snare Master Sprite, a Fairy Dream Thief, 3 Barrow Naughties, and Talion's Messenger to start buffing them up, getting some counters, getting some card draw through our deck there. We've got double Spell Stutter with all these fairies, so this is going to be a really efficient counter spell. And we have a Curiosity to slap onto a cheap little flyer to try to draw a bunch of extra cards off of it as well. So that is the core kind of blue-black fairies archetype to our deck, the blue-black fairy tempo game plan, with cheap flyers, some cheap card draw, and some cheap interaction thanks to Puny Snack, Croaking Curse, some Spell Stutters, and a Rat Out. But then, when we get higher in the mana curve, we've got some splashy stuff going on. We've got a couple Threadbind Click that we can use the Rip the Seams as our big late-game interaction. We've got a couple Charades to tap something down and draw us a card. And then we have a lot of ways to trigger Charade outside of herself. The Ice Rot Sentry can draw us extra cards off Charade, the Transmuter can draw us an extra card, the 4 Snare Master Sprites, when drawn later in the game, can be played for 3 mana, and they'll draw us a card off Charade as well. So there's actually a lot of potential card draw going on with the Ice Stun theme of the deck. And at the very top of the curve, we also have the Gingerbread Hunter Splash. We're already running Puny Snack up front, so every now and then we might be able to cast the Gingerbread Hunter itself off of a Crystal Grotto, and then we've got a couple into the Fey Court for the big late-game card draw spells, so looks like a pretty sweet deck in general, a super fun one, very interesting archetype, something we haven't played in a little while, so hopefully it plays out well for us, but we'll find out soon enough as we cross our fingers and head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1. We get to start things off with a Snare Master Sprite. Turn 2 we get to scry with our Crystal Grotto while holding up a Spell Stutter if we want, which I think I will likely do. Seems a little better than just playing another 1/1 on turn 2. Find a Barrow Naughty to play next turn. So yeah, I can just hold up Spell Stutter for a turn and then drop Barrow Naughty and Sprite together if we want to next turn. I am very happy to Spell Stutter a Mosswood Dread Knight so that they don't get to get a bunch of extra value off of that, drawing a card off of it, then playing it as a creature, then if I ever kill it, drawing another card off of it and replaying it as a creature. Card can do some work for sure. Let's jam out the Barrow Naughty and the Snare Master Sprites. And then I will have the mana up for Threadbind Click's Adventure. Rip the seams on their Tangle Span lookout if they attack in, because I'm going to attack with everybody in the sky here. Play a land past the turn. Might have been worth it to just play a 3/3 flyer, honestly, but I am a greedy man. Like to get my adventure removal spell value here too. Send in the lookout and let's rip the seams on it. Another land for us. We do have that Talion's Messenger in our deck that can let us draw cards and discard cards. So I don't want to overplay my lands here, but I'll still play the 5th land. I think I'll probably stop there, though. If I top deck a land again, I'll just hold them at this point. But we definitely want to hold at least one, so we always have one to discard to our draw card and discard a card spell. Okay, let's jam in for 2. Actually, I think it's probably the most reasonable to just keep 1, because the other thing that we have to consider is if we draw into something like Into the Fey Court, where I'm going to spend 5 mana on a draw 3, and we're going to want to have the mana to spend 5 on our draw 3 and also cast something else afterwards. And we're pretty likely to like draw another land off of a draw 3, and obviously we can't play 2 lands in 1 turn, so it would help a lot. Here it looks like we are going to get squished by a Stormkeld Vanguard. That was an interesting decision from our opponent, though. They go to fight the Tangled Colony and give us all these rats? Never mind, we can outrace them now. It's a Spell Stutter. By the time that I draw that, I'm already just trying to kill them. I think I want something that immediately impacts the board over that, and they're just gonna concede. That was rough for our opponent. I think they were 100% in the winning position if they just didn't fight our Tangled Colony. I think they just saw that it was a rat that was a rare, and they just didn't read the rest of it, so they were just like, well, let's just kill that rare, and then we're good. 7-8 versus a couple flyers, which is true. If it didn't spit out all these rat tokens, we would have been losing the game pretty hardcore here, so that's what I was about to say. They got the Stormkeld Vanguard out. We don't have any of our tappers, didn't have the counterspell at that point left over, so that can just kill us, just a big creature like that. But lucky for us, opponent gives us 7 rats to win that race, and it's going to end game 1. We are 1-0 now heading the next game. Here we are now for game 2. The mana's a bit awkward for sure. The fact that I have to filter to get a blue mana off of this Crystal Grotto. But I think I'm still going to keep it. I like the early rat out and the Charade potentially turn 4. We do need to scry into an island here ideally, but we've got that scry to help get there. Just put any non-island card on the bottom. Alright. Putting the non-island card on the bottom. I'm a man of my word on that one. Okay. Playing against a blue-red deck with a turn 2 Aquatic Alchemist, and there we go. There's the island. So I'm holding up Spell Stutter now. If they cast something super bad for us. Mocking Sprite is super fine, because Rat Out is excellent against that. Now, so I want to Spell Stutter a 4-drop. Just jam down an Ice Rot Sentry. I think with a Charade in hand, we actually want to just jam out an Ice Rot Sentry. We're just hoping they play like a solid creature turn 4. Then we tap it down with Charade, buff the Ice Rot Sentry, draw a card, all that, and then we can hold up the Spell Stutter for like their last play, their big late game play maybe. Turn 5. And they're holding up their own potential counterspell here. Our only options are to attempt to drop Charade or just hold up the Spell Stutter now. We get in a solid amount of damage. Even if I don't cast Charade here, so I'm just gonna do that. Hold up the Spell Stutter. Go for Charade when they're tapped out. Because now if they cast something big that Charade isn't going to be able to like tap down super easily, I can just counter it. And if they don't, then if they don't and they just tap out for something that Charade can tap down, then we can just do the Charade. Alright, that's gonna be a great use of Spell Stutter. Reversing the 2-for-1 that adventure would give them. That would be a bounce removal spell and a big creature later. Putting the Sentry back on top of our deck. Yeah, happy to spend the counter on that. And here's the Frolicking Familiar. And now that we do not have a counter spell, let's just play a Charade. I think we want to auto tap to have a blue up. In case we draw Curiosity or a Snaremaster Sprite. But I actually don't think I'd want to cast either of those here, but we only have one mana black spell. Like 4 1-mana blue spells, yeah. So now we have the option of playing Snaremaster Sprite, but because I have a Charade and an Ice Rot Sentry, I actually think I just hold on to it and actually get the tap out of it later for 3 mana. Realm Scorcher Hellkite, that's a big one. So we are not going to draw the card because I'm just going to put a stun counter on that, I think. Although our opponent's at 11, so we do have to think about how much damage I could be doing here if I did tap the Alchemist. But I guess Ice Rot Sentry can just do that. Yeah, so let's go spend this 3 mana to keep the Hellkite tapped. And then just use Ice Rot Sentry so we hit for 6 and draw a card here. Better than playing a Baronauti right now? Think so. Unfortunately, this Hellkite is still going to be an issue for us, even if it's just tapped down. It can shoot things for a red and 1, so they have 3 damage to send wherever they want. They can kill the Ice Rot Sentry or the Charade, or kill the Snaremaster and shoot us for 2. Because the Hellkite can do some wild stuff. Just going to tap out to kill Charade while we're tapped out. That would be fair enough. Kill the Sentry, preserve their life total. Yep. That is the biggest beat stick we have by a lot. Because it taps one of their blockers and attacks as a 4/4. Alright. So now what? Can't really get through this board. I can cast it into the Fey Court, draw 3, get a 1/1, and cast a 2 mana spell here. I guess. We can't get any damage in this turn. I could cast a couple Barrow Naughties and a Tangled Colony, just to play as many creatures onto the board as possible right now. It would be multiple flyers, and the Tangled Colony attacks in super well against an opponent at 5. Yeah, actually think that's fine. Just jam all the power onto this board that we can. And yeah, we have no attacks. Please, no fourth mountain. Alright, it's not a fourth mountain, so they can only shoot for 3 damage with the Realm Scorcher Hellkite right now, but that's still a big deal. Kills whatever creature they want. Technically, they could kill 2 of our creatures if they want to kill the Snare Master Sprite and the Colony, but then the Colony would spit out 2 more rats, so I don't think that is what they want to be doing here. Flick a coin? Flick a coin, indeed. It's actually not that impressive when they already have a Realm Scorcher Hellkite on board anyway. But it does draw them a card, let them see what the next thing is. Triggers their cards that trigger off of casting instants and sorceries, but they can't really afford to not hold up a bunch of blockers. Thanks to the treasure token, they get to do that and still have 3 pings though, which is pretty nice. So they're going to kill the Charade. And just pass the turn. Well, Tangled Colony is a ridiculously good attacker here. I mean, the issue is Hellkite's just an insane card. They can wipe out all the rats we get. They just trade Colony into Familiar and then just kill both rats next turn while still having mana up for other stuff. We gotta find some stuff off of this Into the Fey Court. Should I Surveil before I cast it then? Could have 3 mana up if I draw land. Play a land and cast a 3-drop. What are my 3-drops in here I could be digging for? Talion's Messenger. Threadbind Click. Having the mana up for Threadbind Click would be legit in case they do attack with the Realm Scorcher. But then if they just don't attack with Realm Scorcher in the future, we're just not doing anything. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I have 3 mana up in case I do draw into the Threadbind, I think. Threadbind in a land. Guess I do this. Okay, did not hit the Threadbind. Now we just play a Dream Thief. And then the Realm Scorcher just starts redding our board state. Can Transmuter it next turn, which could lead to some big attacks, potentially. I'm looking for bigger stuff than Barrow Naughty at this point. Cool. So we get a flying blocker off the board. Even if they can kill all these rats, we still got a flyer out of the way, which is a big, big, big deal. Because we can use Transmuter to tap the Hellkite, so they have no flying blockers next turn. Can't kill them because they can kill both of our 1/1 flyers right now, but we can get some damage in. Maybe we can kill them next turn. Not impossible. So we've got the mana here to tap down the Hellkite and have 7 mana up. For 7 mana, I can spend 3 on a Messenger and 3 to buff a Barrow Naughty temporarily. Okay. They've only got 1 red mana up. They kill a Dream Thief. I will mill 1 to get a permanent +1/+1 counter on one of these naughties instead of a temporary counter. guess I play Transmuter instead of buffing a Naughty with +1/+0 here. Unless they kill Messenger. Okay, they just kill Messenger. So we will not be getting a +1/+1 counter on a Barrow Naughty. But that means they don't kill a Dream Thief, which is a big deal. I can put them to 1 if I buff here, or I can put them to 2 and play a 3/4. With only 3 red, they can't kill a 3/4 with with Hellkite. They can't kill a Transmuter with a Hellkite. And then this is just a 1/1 now, so they have no good blockers for a 3/4. I think I just put them to 2 and cast the 3/4. Alright, so that was not great sequencing. I should have held my land in hand for turn, so I had the option of drawing and discarding a card off the Messenger, instead of just milling myself one. That way, if I drew something better than just playing a land and playing Transmuter, I could do that. Alright, opponent concedes with style. They have the Hellkite shoot itself for 1 damage, and that was a pretty spicy game of Magic there. We fought our way through the mythic Realm Scorcher Hellkite. That's a pretty nice card with the mana sync ability that can really take over a game, but just got some really solid value going off of a bunch of little fairies, and really the Charade as well. That was a huge deal, drawing those extra cards. Charade into the Fey Court. All these card advantage spells were really, really important to hit there to get enough stuff on board through the Hellkite to eventually chip in for lethal. Opponent did flood out as well. That's obviously always helpful, but still some solid stuff from our end of the table, and we are going to be 2-0 heading into game number 3. Here we are for game 3. Opponent is on the play, which is what makes this kind of a sketchy keep. I think I'm going to still do it and hope for the best here, but if we were on the play, I think this would be a good keep, because then I can hold up a Spell Stutter starting on turn 2, and I could counter their 2-drop or 3-drop or 4-drop from that point on. But being on the draw means my Spell Stutter can't counter anything until they have 3 mana up, so they are going to resolve a 2-drop creature. If our opponent just plays like a 2-mana 3/1 here, we can have some issues. It's going to take a while to kill it. We'll need to wait for Rip the Seams, but I do think that these are really solid pieces of interaction, so if our opponent doesn't have a super fast hand, we could play a pretty solid long game with this one. And Transmuter is definitely a great draw. And there we go. That looks pretty good to me. Opponent not playing a 2-drop creature, so we do get to just Spell Stutter their first creature if we need to. Pretty happy with that. Crystal Grotto is going to scry away a second copy of Crystal Grotto, because we don't really want a 6th land quite yet. They're going to go for the Hollow Scavenger. That has a good enough ability. I'm just going to counter that one and save the Transmuter plus Rip the Seams combo for their next big spooky thing, I think. Let's Edgewall in. Because I have a Crystal Grotto on board and there's not really any land destruction in this format, this is already just naturally my green source. So I think I'm going to get a 3rd blue. That's what I'm going to do with Edgewall in here. And might have got overexcited about Spell Stutter. I think I do that a lot with counter spells. I just kind of like to spend them when I know that I can actually counter something with them, but we could have just went for Rip the Seams on the Scavenger, and that would have played fine too. Since it doesn't have like a good enter the battlefield effect or something. I think I discard the island here. Have 1 natural black source feels pretty good. Although I have the Crystal Grotto, maybe I don't need 1 natural white source. It's actually that. And I'll just spend 4 mana for Rip the Seams whenever I need to do that. Yeah, I don't think it's going to play out super terribly that I blew the Spell Stutter. If they have like an Ashiok, it will. If they have a Planeswalker instead of a creature. But the fact that we still have all this interaction to use on creatures means I think it's fine that we blew Spell Stutter. But it was probably better to keep it, because then I could cast Rip the Seams earlier and then actually just play a 3/3 flyer and not feel bad about it. Because now I'm just not going to want to play the 3/3 flyer until I've actually killed something. And I'll have to wait for them to do something to kill something with it. And drawing another spell stutter now makes it super fine that I blew the first one. Lucky stuff there. Definitely played this game out incorrectly, because we could have just destroyed the tapped scavenger and then had a 3/3 flyer out by now. But instead, we're just vibing, we're hanging out with our opponent. 6 mana. I need 7 to cast into the Fey Court and hold up Spell Stutter. I could just cast a Snare Master Sprite without tapping something. I mean... sure. I don't really want to cast Transmuter without getting a Curse Roll. I don't want to cast the Click without destroying something first, but I think Sprite without tapping something is perfectly fine. We'll just start chipping for 1 a turn, and I have no idea what they're holding on to here. Could just be sandbagging all of their spells because they just do not want to cast anything against the blue deck. Just draw 3. Go from there. Spell Stutter is counter unless they pay 4, so it's going to counter anything that we need it to. But I do need to keep in mind if their creatures don't have good abilities, don't counter them, because we have a Transmuter and a Click here. And Vanguard is already just a bad creature to counter because it can keep coming back from the grave regardless, so we're definitely not countering that one. So now I can go a blue and 2 to cast Italian's Messenger. Attack with my fairies, draw a card, discard a card, and buff one of them. Still holding up Spell Stutter. If I just draw another land, I can cast a Sprite, tap a thing down, and still hold up Spell Stutter. I think I actually hold a black source up here, so I can cast Tangled Colony and hold up Spell Stutter if I don't draw land, to be mana efficient here. I think I buff the physical card rather than the token. I'm not sure how much it matters. Since the non-token one can actually block non-flyers, it's a little bit better than the token is. Drew into a Baronauti, which I like a lot. Actually just gonna play that here. Because with the Messenger to keep buffing that, we can just make a really big flying lifelinker. I think I actually prefer that to getting the Tangled Colony down right now. Come on in, Vanguard. Can certainly outrace you at the current pace that things are going. Shadow the Oath Messenger, that I will counter. Keep the Messenger around so we can just start buffing our lifelinker every turn, and got plenty of removal for if they try to resolve big creatures. Well, let's discard one of these charades, because the Legend Rule is a thing. Seven mana here. Don't have a counterspell to hold up anymore. So we just cast a Tangled Colony. Sure, let's just cast a Tangled Colony and a Snare Master, and I'm not even that worried if they have like the board wipe rare in black. Because it would only be -1/-1 right now. They only have one creature in their grave. The board wipe in black in this set is a 5 mana 3/3 flyer. You have to exile creatures in your grave to give the whole board -X/-X, where X is the number of cards exiled. So they can only do -1/-1 to everybody. Just kill my token and my small Snare Master. they know we're not holding up a counter now. Our only untapped mana is our colorless, which is very funny. So they could cast just a multitude of removal spells to try to clear out enough flyers to not die next turn. They could just pass, and it's got to be instant speed removal to try to not die. Well, now we can actually get our Charade card draw, which I think is pretty legit to me. Yeah, I don't have any of these. None of these spells are going to affect the combat at all, so let's Charade it up. Get the Tangled Colony in on the ground. And that provides 3 more damage, whereas if I spent all 6 of the mana that I could have spent on Barrow Naughty, that would have been 2 extra damage, so this is technically more damage than if I dumped it all into the Barrow Naughty. And I'm going to play this land so I have access to Barrow Naughty's ability, even though it means I don't get to discard a land to the Messenger. And let's see what they have against the all-attack here. I think we spread out the power against potential instant speed removal to kill the Barrow Naughty here. Stingblade Assassin for a blocker. Block one of these cards, so they block the Barrow Naughty, take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Still dead. Oh yeah, they have a food token though, so with the food token they make sure they don't die. What do I want to do post-combat? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think I just put them to 1 and just don't cast anything post-combat. So we just buff up here. And our opponent is going to scoop them up. They are not a fan of me taking the time to try to figure out if I need to cast anything else post-combat. But I think putting them to 1 looked pretty good there, so they are going to scoop them up, and we are 3-0 now, heading into game number 4, undefeated so far. We've worked our way up into Diamond Tier 1 off of this draft as well, so this has been a pretty sweet one. Here we are on the play for game number 4, and we can try to just put a Curiosity on a Snaremaster Sprite. If our opponent taps out so we know they can't just like rat out or torch the tower our Snaremaster Sprite, then I think I will do it, because again, if we can draw at least 1 card off the Curiosity, we're not going to get 2 for 1. And then, if we can draw multiple, it can just take over the game, just giving us way too much value. We do want quite a bit of mana with this hand right now. A second swamp's a little awkward, but still definitely useful. Trying to get to that 5 mana. Seeing an island on top would have been beautiful because of the double into the Fey Court, but swamp is perfectly fine. So green-red from our opponent, welcome to Sweet Tooth, no Torch Tower on Snaremaster Sprite, so we're going to draw at least 2 cards off of Curiosity, 1 mana sorcery, draw 2. Sounds pretty good to me. Find the Gingerbread Hunter, so we can kill one of their creatures here. I'm going to wait till their end step, so that if they do play like a 3-mana creature, we can kill that instead if it's low enough on toughness, instead of just killing a 1/1. They are green, red, and blue. Let's take our 1 damage. And there's a Goose Mother, which does hit the board as a 3/3, so I can't kill it with Gingerbread Hunter. And I can't attack into it with Snaremaster Sprites. And it, oh my god, it makes X food rounded up, so it's going to make another food. They'll have 2 food tokens on board for the Welcome to Sweet Tooth, so that's going to be +3/+3. 3 plus and +1 counters on something next turn. Alright, well that's going to be really bad. Is it worth attacking into the Goose Mother and holding up Gingerbread Hunter? I don't think so. I think it's actually better. I think it's actually going to play better to just Puny Snack the human and then hold up the destroy a tapped creature and let them draw their one Goose Mother card, except if I draw exactly Rat Out. Then I could have Rat Out plus Puny Snack to the Goose Mother, and that is such a disappointing draw. That is such a wildly disappointing draw. I think that's the one draw in our deck that would make the other line better. And it does make the other line way better. Yeah, we don't have any other -X style removal. Everything else we have is like curse rolls and stuff. Let's try to get this to resolve, and let's see if they've got the hexproof trick. They do not. Goose Mother is dead, but they still draw the card off of it. Part of why that card is so great. It's giving you that extra value, even if it does die pretty quickly. And obviously if it doesn't die, then it's just massive, and that's super bad. Okay, so let's get the Snare Master in and draw another card here. Curiosity has turned into Ancestral Recall? Sure has. Why did you spend double blue, Auto Tapper? I've had this a lot. Oh, there's the concession. Let's go. I've had this happen a lot in recent drafts, and I still keep letting the Auto Tapper tap my mana because I'm just too lazy. But with Crystal Grotto, the Auto Tapper gets really bad. There's no universe where we're supposed to tap double blue there. I think it's blue and black is the correct way to tap because we have the next swamp to play even if I don't draw another land. So we go blue, black, and then main phase 2 play a swamp. And that way if we draw into any blue spells off the Curiosity, we can still cast one. But yeah, Auto Tapper does some funky things when a Crystal Grotto is lying around. Anyways, yeah, at that point we turned Curiosity into Ancestral Recall. A very delayed sorcery speed Ancestral Recall, but still drew us 3 cards for 1 mana. Very, very solid work there. Fight our way through the Goose Mother, and we are now 4-0, guaranteed to be just about breaking even no matter what. But we'll see if we can't take it in the money as we head into game number 5. And here we are for game 5. Our opponent is on the play. If we were on the play, I'd be really happy to just go Sprite into Barrow Naughty and then hold up Stutter, but on the draw, it might be better to just Sprite into holding up Stutter. Because I feel like 3 mana is where things start getting like scary enough to want to just counter something that early. But there's some 2 mana bombs too. Hopeless Nightmare's actually a very difficult choice here. Every card in this hand is really spicy. Think we have to ditch the Threadbind? Although we could just ditch the Spell Stutter and then just play a tap out game plan. But then my 3-drop is just the Threadbind click. So we hope they play a creature next turn and attack with it, and then we can use our removal spell there. What do I want to try to do turn 3? Do I want to try to hold up Spell Stutter, or do I want to try to hold up Rip the Seams? I'm going to try to hold up Spell Stutter. We think about it that way. Let's go for the Barrow Naughty here, and then our turn 3 play is Spell Stutter instead of Threadbind. Just Candy Grapple the Barrow Naughty. That what's going on here? Sack the Hopeless Nightmare to get the Scry to dig for lands? Certainly is what's going on here. Scry both to the top. Probably land. And now let's just send in. They just play a creature, we let it resolve, then we charade it down. If they play something really spooky, we can Spell Stutter. That is 2 creatures off 1 card, but it's not particularly spooky. So I'm going to let it hang out. And let's charade. We got to hit some non-lands here. That Hopeless Nightmare actually really got us, because we didn't want to discard the land because we wanted to make sure we could do everything. And then we drew a couple lands in a row, which is then like, well, now in hindsight, obviously discarding land would be better. But we couldn't have known this is what we were drawing. 4 mana up, Crystal Grotto, another land which I really don't want, but it's the best land we could draw here because it scries. Actually, Edgewall In might have been a little bit better of a draw, since that could pick up our fairy in the graveyard. Go for the recast. But Crystal Grotto is very nice as well, giving us the scry. Candy Grapple time. Sack the rat, kill Charade, buff Vermin up to 3/2. Stingblade Assassin time. That's fine. Trade send any of our fairies on board. So we can still attack with like 1/1 flyers into that pretty fairly. And we can outrace it with like lifelink stuff, so I really don't find myself particularly concerned about it hitting me here. I think we just take it. And I'll have an excellent blocker up for it next turn if I need to. A Fairy Dream Thief, which can block and trade into it and give us value from the grave. Could counter the Vanguard, but it's easy to kill with my 1/1 things, so I'm not going to. We will hold on to the Spell Stutter very diligently this time. Let's cast a Fairy Dream Thief. Find a Threadbind, that's a beautiful one. It's a beautiful, beautiful one. Get our little lifelink swing in. A lot of 1 toughness stuff over there. I'm pretty interested in just holding my 1/1s back. Okay, this auto tap is good enough. It's holding up a blue and 1. Feeling pretty solid here. They only have 3 cards in hand. Board state's pretty under control because all their stuff is so low toughness. And if we keep the Barrow Naughty around, it'll be pretty hard for them to outrace it because of that lifelink. Sending the squad over here. Let's get ready to give them a very big Voracious Vermin, I think. They play a crazy trick. We can probably counter it with Spell Stutter. That is a pretty crazy trick. Stingblade Assassin would come back as a 4/2, and it would kill Charade as well. So let's Spell Stutter that, because it's counter unless they pay 5 at this point, and they only have 4 up. Do they have the double trick on us? Sure do. Monster roll onto the Assassin. Unfortunate. So now we have the Threadbind to blow up a tapped card. I think I wait till their next combat to do that so that I can still have the Charade trade into the Vermin. Because if I do it right now and kill the Assassin, the Vermin's going to be a 4/3 on their next attack, and Charade obviously doesn't trade into that. So I gotta hold up 3 to use that, so I can spend 3 on whatever I want. Which is probably buffing Barrow Naughty for lifelink right now. Do I even just hold it back as a blocker at this point? We might be at that point. Here. I think that's reasonable. Let's actually just hold off on blocks. Snaremaster Sprite on the Vanguard, Charade on the Vermin, Redbind on the Assassin. Maybe even just Barrow Naughty on the Assassin. They have another trick again? Could be gross. Yeah, I mean, I guess if the whole board trades off, we've got another piece of card draw here and a 2-for-1 to kill their next creature here. Could pan out fine for us. I think I do actually go for that. Like, we definitely need to kill the vermin before I try to kill anything else. That part's like a big guarantee. So let's just kill it all at once here. Find a Snare Master. Not great, not terrible. Okay, now I can kill the Werefox during their end step and then play my fairy. They try to curse the Werefox here, something like that. Some kind of green removal spell that could go really well for us, where they try to make their Werefox fight our Sprite. Because then we just counter it with Threadbind. Fell Horseman. Can't do anything about that. So here comes Voracious Vermin. It's coming back. Or they just play a 3/3. Okay, so there's the Vermin. I'm going to kill the Werefox before Vermin gets any counters. And we'll be casting the Click next turn. Come on, Crystal Grotto, find me something that ain't a land. I mean, that is the best land. If I draw Edgewall in, I'm basically drawing a Threadbind 2 turns from now. It's a delayed draw. Feel like I just barely have time for that. So I am playing a 3/3 blocker against the 2/1 on board here. Opponent has found their 7th land. And a Hamlet Glutton. Oh, they are firmly winning this top deck war. Gotta take the trade here. Take 1 hit from the Glutton and then blow it up with the Threadbind. So we go to 2 and then kill a Glutton after that. And then we're still dealing with a Fell Horseman. But we can, our 3/3 maybe trade into the Fell Horseman later, but I don't have the mana to pick up my removal spell, kill the Glutton, and play the 3/3 in the same turn. And they top decked Tough Cookie now to go with the Fell Horseman, so they have 3 other attackers next turn. So 1, 2, 3, 4 mana to pick up my... Click. I don't have enough mana to play Charade and pick up the removal spell and cast it, which means I'm dead. Right, because I have to tap these 4 lands, basically, to pick up the removal from grave. That leaves me with 6 mana left for a 4-drop and a 3-drop removal spell. So I'm 1 mana off for maybe living another turn. I guess we have to see if Charade can find just the perfect spell here. I guess because I've got another swamp in hand, I actually do this. Oh, I forgot to tap a white source. Oops. Okay, land is not the perfect spell, so we're dead. 3, 4. Yeah, 4 mana plus in is not enough. It's 1 mana off. Alright. Well, we lost that top deck war pretty bad. I think I still played that out pretty solidly. We got a lot of good value from the deck. We just hit a lot more lands in the end game than our opponent. The big issue overall. Yeah, they didn't really accomplish like any crazy 2-for-1 plays or anything that really got us anywhere. Hit a bit of a higher spell to land ratio overall. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that could have went differently is if I wasn't tucking a land away in the end game. Like, I was holding on to one land a couple turns there in case I hit like Italian's Messenger. If I'd played out every single land that I drew all game, then we would have been able to top decking a land off the charade. If we had both of these lands out on the board, that would be the 3 mana off of this floating black and 2 to sack the Edgewall and pick up the Threadbind and then also play the Threadbind. But I guess we didn't have enough white mana for that anyway. Yeah, it actually still wouldn't be enough mana because we need double white. We would need a white for charade and a white for the Threadbind, which means we tax ourselves an extra mana to filter into a second white. So actually, yeah, even if I played every land that I drew and wasn't holding on to lands in case of Talion's Messenger, I still would have been 1 mana off because we would have had to use a Crystal Grotto to play charade and the Ripta Seams at the same time. Yeah, that Tough Cookie was just a really big hit for our opponent. If they missed on that final draw step instead of drawing into the Tough Cookie, then we could have done the plan of picking up the Threadbind, blowing up the Hamlet Glutton, and then we just chump block the Fell Horseman for a turn. And from there, then they could hit anything that isn't like Tough Cookie power level, just another Vermin or Werefox or something. And actually, no, I guess Werefox would have killed us too. They still would have had a lot of ways to just kill us off the top, but we could have maybe gotten there because then we can chump the 3 damage to stay at 2 life, and then I have the mana to play charade for a 2/3, tap a creature down, draw a card, and play a 3/3 flyer, and then we've got multiple blockers, we're up a card, and we try to stabilize from there. So yeah, we just really needed them to miss that turn, and instead they found a very, very big hit in the end. So still kind of close overall, just little too few spells in the end. And that is going to be our first loss, meaning we are now 4-1 heading into game number 6. Here we are for game 6 on the draw against turn 1 Utopia Sprawl. So our opponent's going to drop a 3 mana spell while I have 1 land on board, and we're just going to have to pray to keep up. Turn 1 Utopia Sprawl on the play, one of the best things you can do in the format. I'm going to slam down the Sprite turn 1 so we can get a lifelinking Barrow Naughty going, but there's an argument for just playing the Swamp, holding up a Rat out, and then keeping the Snare Master for later once we get a charade resolved, but we don't even have a white source in the hand yet, so we're not sure when that is going to happen. Would be nice to kill the Prowler with a Rat out, but we can wait a little while because we don't need to kill it until they have 5 mana up, and they'll have 4 mana up next turn. They can technically put an aura on it or something to make it too big for a Rat out to kill, but I think that's definitely a lot less likely than them just casting a 5-drop later in the game. So we certainly want to kill it before they have 5 mana, but I will give them a turn to maybe buff it up with some other means to protect it from a Rat out here. Because I don't think that's super likely to be the play. They're probably just jamming out another solid creature. That is the play, but it's the creature that gives them a roll, so But of course, what else would it be? Now we can drop a Dream Thief or hold on to a Rat Out, and that is it. Let's drop the Dream Thief, try to find the white source here. And I'm actually going to hold up blocks here. Just preserve the life total. Got no good attacks here. It's not a good draw without the white source. We don't really want to draw 3 of our 4 white cards without any of our mana fixing. Really just looking for the fixing or the white source to just threadbind the Prowler at this point. Or looking for counter spells because they're about to jam out big creatures. Nothing that turn. Now we can Talion's Messenger to try to dig for the mana that we're looking for. I think I do this. And then draw a card, discard a card, and if it's a white source... How is the green-red-blue deck playing spell setters on me? That it was unexpected, but I guess they're green-blue at the core and the red is the splash. That's what's going on here. Alright, well, that'll do that. Got them to not attack us at all last turn, so we can do that again by just not doing anything here, I think. Alright, Tempest Heart to draw 2, discard 2. There's the Tempest Heart, which is just a 3/4. They're down to just 1 card. So we're chilling. Got time to find the white source, and there it is. Now I'm starting to feel a little safe here. Still don't have great attacks or blocks. And they've got a reach creature coming up. Wait, are they just full on? They're probably just full on 3-color, because Grabby Giant is not really a card you want to splash in. And they top decked a combat trick now. We don't lose much by losing these. And they can only use the trick on one of these 2 combats, most likely. This is probably just kill the Baronati. Monstrous Rage. That doesn't add to the Prowler's toughness at all, so... This works out pretty fine, right? We still kill the Prowler. Yeah, it's still 2 toughness, so we still kill that. I'm not going to be killing the Genealogist, but I can go ahead and gain 2 here at this point. Cool, kill the Prowler before it gets any bigger. Pretty happy to see that. And it does look like they're full on just green, blue, and red. Playing 2-drop blue spells like Stormkeld Prowler and the counter spell, playing 1-drop red spells like Monstrous Rage and Grabby Giants, and playing a lot of green spells. So just a full teamer deck here. So what now is the question? Can Charade to lock down the Giant and draw a card have 3 power to be blocking with to double block Genealogist? Hope they miss on a draw step here. Because if I just blow up a Tempest Heart or something, I'm only blocking here, taking 4. If I Charade, I'm blocking just as well either way. So let's try to draw the card, see if we can find more mana to be able to do more than one thing on future turns. So let's lock out some damage and look for lands, and boom, there you go. Love to see that one. And I like threatening the double block on the Genealogist, so we just take 3 this turn. They're going to start sacrificing lands to draw cards off the Grabby Giant. Very, very solid ability there. Play another land. Sack another land, draw another card, probably. Here comes Tempest Heart, down to 10. We did draw another mana, which is beautiful. Now I can blow up the Grabby Giant and play a 3/3, which is also a fairy to give the Barrow Naughty lifelink. I'm super into that. Let's do it. Kill the Grabby Giant to get rid of their card draw engine. Drop our 3/3. Gain 1. Now that I have 7 mana up, I could into the Fey Court, and if we draw into a Spell Stutter, we get to hold that up after the into the Fey Court. But we don't have it yet for their own copy of Into the Fey Court, which buffs that Tempest Heart up to 4 or 5 stats. If they don't have a Monstrous Rage, they still don't have good attacks, though. And there's the Spell Stutter. Wonderful draw. Really love to see that. So let's into the Fey Court. Find another Spell Stutter. Now I can rat out their fairy and still hold up our own Spell Stutter. Get our 1 lifelink point in again. Rat out their fairy. Our Spell Stutter is counter unless they pay 5 right now. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, so it's basically counter anything. And we've got 2 copies of it, too. Definitely counter cut-in. They do send the Tempest Heart in. Send in both. Trying to 2-for-1 us with a combat trick. I'm fine to get 1-for-1 by a combat trick here. They like Titanic Growth to kill Threadbind Click. It's a fine trade. So we'll do that. Get them to use the combat trick. Get out of the way. Yeah, I need to start playing around the Werefox more. They always have the Werefox. Didn't want to go Charade and Threadbind on the Genealogist, because then if it's Titanic Growth, they kill both of our creatures, but obviously that plays better against the Werefox. It's pretty gross, though. So, now that I have another white source, I can spend 3, sack an Edgeball in and pick up my removal spell. I'd have 5 mana up after that, so I have enough mana to hold up Spell Stutter and Threadbind tapped creatures. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to play this land, hold up the ability to Spell Stutter and Threadbind one of their creatures. Let's get my lifelink and attack in with the things that can't block anyway, and I guess Charade's not even blocking well at this point. So we probably send in the whole team. Puts me to death on board, but I have a removal spell and a counter spell in hand to not die. Should I just play around the hexproof trick right now and just kill Tempest Heart immediately? I don't think that's horrible. I'll actually do that. In case they have the 1 mana, put a royal roll on something, give it hexproof thing. Balluna's Gatekeeper certainly bounces the barrow, Naughty. Now, spell stutter's counter unless they pay 3. Which means they can't resolve anything right now. Yeah, I'll spell stutter that. It's going to let them resolve a 6/5 later, but the key word there is later. How is the last card Tough Cookie? What is this? Again. Alright. Obviously that feels pretty awful. Seeing the Tough Cookie here. I can hold up a lot of blockers here. I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. That's enough to play the Click and the double Naughty, which is probably the play. Next turn into the Fey Court. I've got 9 mana, so 5 on into the Fey Court. I still have 4 to do whatever after. Yeah, we keep it, I think. Just play blockers. Play blockers all day. Tough Cookie's such a gross card. It's like a sick 2-mana 2/2 on curve that gives you food, but if you draw it late game, you've just drawn a 2/2 and a 4/4. They top deck another trick here? It's the only thing that makes a lot of sense if this is the attack. I'm at 8 life because of the double lifelink here. They only kill 1 of my 3 blockers on board. Yeah, show me another trick off the top. Cool. We're alive. 4 life. They play a Troyan. Okay. What shall we find off the Fey Court here? Already cast both Threadbinds and 1 Charade. If I top deck another Charade, I'm not going to play it because the Legend rule anyway. So white is basically colorless. Crystal Grotto is colorless, so we tap like this. Transmuter doesn't matter much against these creatures. Well, we can play it as a 3/4 blocker, which does matter. Colony doesn't block at all, so maybe we do just play a 3/4. Just don't really get the cursed roll. I'm at 4 life. Next turn they attack with a 2/2, a 1/3, and a 4/4. Block a 2/2. Block a 1/3. Block a 4/4 with these. Guess I send in the Threadbind this time. And I guess the curse roll could matter, so we should send in the rat here, because if they block with a rat, then the curse roll is just going to kill one of the creatures. Or if they block the rat with something. And the curse roll does matter if they play the 6/5, but that's not something that's currently on the board, and I think I need that instant impact on the board state when I'm at 4. So I think we do this. And then I'll still have 3 blockers up for their 3 potential attackers if I just play a 3/4 post-combat. Or I'll have 2 blockers up for their 2 attackers if they let me curse roll away one of these creatures, which they are going to do. So I'm going to curse roll the Troyan to get rid of the card draw engine. And then we play a Tangled Colony. And we just chump block a 4/4 next turn with a 1/3 and then try to kill them in the sky. Or I guess we chump block with the Charade to keep the flyer. Let's kill them with next turn. It's our last draw step. It's got to be a great card or we are just going to kill them next turn. It's a Ruby. Is that enough to kill me? I don't think it's enough to kill me, so I think we get them. Because they animate the 4/4, they can attack with all 3 now. I only have 2 blockers for the 3 attackers, so one of them gets in, but not for lethal. Or they just do this. They can eat the tough cookie, so I need to keep that in mind. So they're technically at 10 because of tough cookie, but they won't be able to eat the food because the food is tapped. So if they're at 10 life, how do I keep 10 power on this board? If I block like this, I hit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 10 mana. I'll have 11 mana. 10 mana, that's plus 3 on Baronaughty. So I can hit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 is not 10. I can at least force them to sack the tough cookie so I don't die on the crackback here. So this works out fine, because I can attack with everybody and they die if they don't chump Tangled Colony, which means they have to chump Tangled Colony and eat the food. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. If I do this, they have to chump Tangled Colony and eat the food, and then I'll gain life off Baronaughty to not just die to Ruby on their next attack. Yeah. I don't think that actually does it for us. Because if I try to puny snack the cookie, they respond by eating it. And then they're at 10, they take 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, it does do it for us. So they're at 10. And I've got 8 mana, which is enough to buff the Baronaughty twice. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage. They're at 10, then we deal 11. Cool. So yeah, force the tough cookie to sack itself before blocks, and then we can send in the team and double buff the naughty. And that's lethal. There's the concession. A very long, very hard-fought game there. My life was flashing before my eyes. Our first loss was to a tough cookie as well. I saw the next one. I got real shook, but we find the victory in the end, and that puts us all the way up to 5-1 in the money out of this draft, no matter what happens from here. Here we are for Game 7. We got the puny snack for their first threat, and I'm just going to try to draw a million cards. So it is a slower hand for sure, but Tangled Colony speeds it right up, and there we go. We've got our own threat to just jam in with now. What do you got, turn 2 opponent? They've got a tough cookie. Stop. Stop. I am going to kill that before they can sack in response, so that they do not get to counter my Gingerbread Hunter by sacking it response and making the Gingerbread Hunter fizzle. There's a Sweet Tooth Witch. That is a really good trade for Tangled Colony, so we're just going to keep attacking into that. I'm assuming this Tangled Colony is just going to keep hitting them for 3 a turn, because they're going to have the foods to eat, and they're just not going to want to give me any rats. Find a Spell Stutter, which I like for later in the game, but I don't think I'm actually playing it next turn. I think I'd rather tap out for Into the Fey Court than hold up Spell Stutter next turn. And then turn 6, I'm obviously just going to play a Gingerbread Hunter, so it's going to be a long time before I even use the Spell Stutter, but I think it will be good later in the game. Because they will likely have some big cards like Hamlet Gluttons and stuff. Maybe I should just hold up Spell Stutter when they're going to have 5 mana up, just so I could counter a Hamlet Glutton. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I already have spells to cast. I don't need to draw cards right now. Well, now I might just Spell Stutter that. Because if I don't, they trade into Colony, I just get 2 rats. Well, they don't even trade into Colony, they just kill it for free and then still have a Werefox to play later. Alright, I guess we found the Spell Stutter use. That would be pretty bad for me. They kill Colony without even spending a card, basically, and then still have a 4/3 to play later, so there goes that Spell Stutter. Hopefully they'll play around a second. Jam down a Shatter the Oath. Now here's our Gingerbread Hunter to block their 4/3. Now they have to resolve a Hamlet Glutton or something to get through. Or just a second Shatter the Oath or something. Stop it. Run out of removal, please. We're down to 7 now. And with a Sweet Tooth Witch on the board, there's not much we can do to stabilize from here. Because that is 4 damage they can throw directly at us. I don't have the mana to play Charade and eat a food because I don't have a natural white source, so I have to spend 5 mana on this Charade, and I won't even draw a card off of Charade because all their creatures are already tapped. So all we can really do is play a Barrow Naughty and eat a food, or an Into the Fey Court desperately hoping to draw land and then eat a food, but then I take 5/9 on board, go to 1. Even if I eat a food and go to 10, I drop down 9 life and go to 1. I don't know what our best line is here, because all the lines are at that point where it's like down to like 1% shot at victory even on the best line. It's probably... I guess it might just be Charade and keep the Witch from hitting, because Charade also blocks the Root Rider Fawn, so we take 0 damage in combat by playing Charade. But we do take a bunch of food to the face here, so if they have a burn spell or a combat trick here, they could just kill us, and aggressively using the food like that kind of makes it look like they might. Well, that's a trick to kill Charade, maybe? Nope, just a free bluff attack. Stab one. That actually might have been worse for me if it didn't kill Charade, because then I'd be taking extra 2 every turn. They wouldn't even have to try to attack me. So I think we're fine with that. I like the Dream Thief draw, so that now we can get a lifelinking Barrow Naughty and a Dream Thief on board and eat our food. Not that that's gonna be enough, but maybe our opponent makes some misplays and we get somewhere here. Ooh, Gingerbrute, that's just straight unblockable if they spend a mana on that. That's not good. Well, I would count that as a misplay. They had great attacks with Sweet Tooth Witch because we can't actually buff the Barrow Naughty, but our opponent might not know that. Looks like we could have 3 power on this board, but we can't right now because it's Crystal Grottos that would be giving us the black mana, so Sweet Tooth Witch was still a free attack here. We would have to just trump with the Dream Thief, so That's definitely good for us. That it was just a Gingerbrute attack. Oh, that's right. Sweet Tooth can throw Gingerbrute at her face. Oh, well then we were dead. Unless... Ah, that is a punt. That is a punt. I always forget Sweet Tooth can also throw Gingerbrute at us. Dang. Pretty unlikely to matter, but we could have then resolved Talion's Messenger next turn and attacked with the Baronati to get that extra 2 points of life gain there. Yeah, it was still going to be a wildly uphill battle, but I just straight forgot Sweet Tooth, which can just eat a Gingerbrute, which is makes Gingerbrute just actually like the perfect top deck there. Dang. So I should have eaten the food before combat damage, but I just forgot about the interaction. Kind of a lame way to end that one. Because it was still, again, probably just going to be a loss, but we could have kept it interesting, got another turn or two in there. Made it a really, really close one. Just forgot about that interaction, and that is going to be 5-2, heading into round number 8. Opponent is on the play here, which is basically the only thing I don't like about this hand, because it is slower. But it can do some powerful stuff. We draw into a Baronati, which is actually really awkward because I want to play the edge wall in on white. It would also be so much better to be able to play a Baronati with lifelink early, but I can't play it till turn 3 if I play edge wall in on white. I think I'm still doing that. Still doing that so I can turn 4 a Charade. We'll have to use Crystal Grotto for black mana for now. So no Baronati till turn 3. Now I just want to play Italian's Messenger turn 3. Yeah, let's play a Snaremaster Sprite this turn, even though I could get extra Charade value off of it later. So that next turn I can play Italian's Messenger and buff the Snaremaster Sprite immediately. Draw a card, discard a card. Keeping another Baronati because we have the draw and discard if we don't find the black sources to cast them easily. Alright, Shrouded Shepherd into Savior of the Sleeping. We are definitely starting the game off a little behind, but that's just what's going to happen when you're on the draw. Yeah, honestly, it's just the fact that we're on the draw that makes us a little behind here. Overall, the card quality we're playing turn 2 and 3 versus their card quality turn 2 and 3 I think is pretty comparable. We might be favored a tiny bit, but they get to play their hand out a little quicker than us being on the play here, so it does put us to where they are favored a little bit. I like that Savior of the Sleeping has Vigilance. Hopefully they'll equip that with the Battle Garb, but I like that it has Vigilance because it means that I get to Charade that and draw the card, even if they keep attacking here. So yeah, we're just going to play Charade next turn and tap the Vigilant card. Force them to get Celebration again if they want to move the thing over. Not liking the life total difference much here, but we can get this Charade to stick around. They're only hitting us with 1 creature next turn. Then, again, if we get the Charade to stick around... Huh. Do I actually make Snaremaster a 3/3 to trade off on blocks? I think we do, because we can definitely win the long game. I don't need to purely try to race here. Ice-Rot Sentry's the coolest card in the long game, but I definitely want the Lifelinkers immediately. The Transmuter's great for drawing a card off Charade and making their board smaller. Maybe it's Snaremaster that's the discard, even though it works with Charade. But I don't know, I think Ice-Rot's the slowest. I think I'm gonna discard that. But yeah, with Talion's Messenger plus Charade, I don't need to be trying to outrace my opponent. Let's just set up some really good blocks to just not die quickly, because I'm already at half of the starting life, that I'm already down to 11. Just make sure we don't just die to some nonsense out of nowhere and play out the long game here. Another Shrouded Shepherd is some nonsense, especially if they play another 2-drop with it and get the Battle Garb on the Shepherd too. They just attack for 7. Yeah. And I have to jump. or trade both my creatures into that, or go to 4. That is such a big yikes. I really don't want to lose the Charade, so am I just chumping with a Snare Master? They've only got 2 cards left in their hand. If they've got like Tempting Apple or something, we're just gonna die to nonsense. Just aggro nonsense if I take this damage. Next turn, 5 mana up. 3 on Snare Master, 2 on Barrow Naughty. Have a life-linking blocker that I can make a 2/4. Lock down a Shepherd, draw a card. 2/4 life-linking blocker is a big, big deal. I'm gonna go to 4. Snare Master, draw the card. Another Crystal Grotto. Get the lifelinker down to buff. Keep as many blockers up as we can. No burn spell, please. No act of treason to steal one of my creatures and use it against me. And that's not horrendous for me. It's not good. It's not horrendous. Turn that into a 1/1 with Vantress Transmuter. Okay. Still getting a good card draw engine off of just Talion's Messenger, so I think I go for the double block here. They only kill one of these 2, and they probably are going to choose to kill Charade, and I think the lifelinker is more valuable anyway, so I'm pretty fine with that. They kill the lifelinker, a little sad, but I think still worth the trade. Yeah, trading to the Savior is worth either of these cards. Let's do that. They are going to kill the lifelinker. Okay. So we're going to get a new one here. But let's draw the card here and make their flyer tiny. Ooh, find that removal spell. I don't have the mana to play the Barrow Naughty and hold that up. But that would be sick if we did. Definitely playing the Barrow Naughty. Pre-combat here to put the counter on that. I'm going to play more natural black sources so it's easier to spend a bunch on Barrow Naughty later and probably discard the Crystal Grotto here. Play the Dream Thief post-combat. Looking good over here. Drawing into a Snare Master sprite with a Charade on the board is always spicy. They're down to a 2/2 on the ground and a 1/1 in the sky, and we've got another 2-power lifelinker on board. And they're over it. They're going to go for the concession. We've got things locked up pretty well with a card draw engine. Well, really 2 card draw engines. And a lot of controlling removal and tapping and stuff going on, so They are just going to scoop them up there, and we are now 6-2, heading into the final boss of this draft. Win or lose, game number 9 is going to be the final game today. The difference between a full 7-win trophy run and just a pretty nice 6-win run with a lot of value added off these gems and packs. So really happy with whatever here, but it would be super sick if we can get a trophy run. So we're going to be competing as best as we can as we head into the final boss. And here we are on the play for the final battle. Certainly looking to draw more lands, so we Crystal Grotto looking for mana, but I think we keep this. Any land gets these Barrow Naughties on the board, especially if we find a natural black source. And getting a Curiosity onto a Barrow Naughty can really get us there. Really crossing our fingers for that Crystal Grotto Scry to be good, but I'm going to keep it. Definitely a bit of greed here, definitely a bit of boldness, but there we go. There's that swamp immediately. That is going to be turn 2 Barrow Naughty, turn 3 play another Barrow Naughty, so they both have lifelink and a Curiosity as soon as that Barrow Naughty gets to attack. Loving that as the start of the game. Hating our opponent's turn 1 Utopia Sprawl. No quicker way to make me jealous than turn 1 Utopia Sprawl. That is one of my favorite plays in the format. I think that is my favorite turn 1 play. Just Forest Utopia Sprawl. If I could do that in every draft, I would. They are on green-white so far. Utopia Sprawl finding the white source for them. They're going to be dropping 3 drops on turn 2 now. Green, white, and black playing a swamp here. Which means they can have some real efficient removal to use on our Barrow Naughty, so Curiosity is probably just going to be 1 mana, draw 1 card, and we're not going to get the massive advantage off of it. But that will still be fine here. Since they are tapped out, they can't get the 2-for-1 on us. We will have drawn 1 card off the Curiosity no matter what. There is the stab wound on the Barrow Naughty. Just actually even worse for us than them just killing it, because we have to double buff it to make it big enough to trigger Curiosity. That's actually insanely good here. Because it still blanks the Barrow Naughty, and it just shreds us for 2 damage a turn. Well, I despise that. That is horrendous. So we just slam down an Ice Rot Sentry. Pass from there. I mean, I guess if we find like Italian's Messenger again, then I can put +1/+1 counters on the Barrow Naughty to make it actually do things again. But yeah, I mean, that's just even better than just candy grappling the Naughty currently. But theoretically, later in the game, if both players just completely run out of things to do, I can start spending 6 mana a turn to keep drawing cards off of Barrow Naughty. Just dump 6 into it to hit them for 1 and draw 1 card. There's a Hamlet Glutton. Perfect target for Charade. Find another Barrow Naughty, so we're going to have plenty of lifelink to counteract their nonsense here. Yeah, let's see what we're going to draw into. Let's scry it out a bit. Snare Master? Pretty reasonable way to not die to a Hamlet Glutton. Just keep stunning it. I'm at enough life. I could take 1 hit to this Hamlet Glutton if I want to chump with the Barrow Naughty to get rid of the stab wound. And if I want to throw Snare Master Sprite's ability elsewhere. To trigger the Charade card draw and the Ice Rot Sentry buff. So we'll consider that. Depends on what happens here. Brave the Wilds to activate a 3/3 land. The Hollow Scavenger as well. Which kind of attacks and blocks as a 5/4 because it can eat that food to get that buff, so it's always threatening to be that big. It's kind of a big deal, so we're probably locking down the Scavenger here. Find a rat out. So if they try to double block Ice Rot Sentry, we can ruin that. So I think I'm in a solid enough position to let a Hamlet Glutton hit us once. Just trump with a Barrow Naughty here. So I could Snare Master the Scavenger instead. Guess I could go for the draw 2 cards. Let's see. 3 mana for Snare Master, 2 mana for the Ice Rot Sentry. These only trigger once though, right? No, this would trigger twice. Charade would only trigger once. So Ice Rot, we could make 6 power. Make it 6 power, make it so they have no blocks. Hit for 6, 7, 8, 9? I could hit them for 9, put them to 7 here. Then the Scavenger wouldn't untap. But Glutton would, the Forest would, they would crack back for a lot. Don't know that that's quite worth it. Yeah, let's not go like full send insanely aggro here. But let's still go. Let's still go Snare Master on the Scavenger rather than the Glutton. If they want to hit us with Glutton, that's less blockers for them. Draw the card. And we'll just play a Barrow Naughty and a Rat out here, I think. Double block to kill Charade? That would be bad for me, so let's just do this. Not tapping with Ice Rot Sentry, so I have the mana to do other stuff. Oh, baby. Oh, the beautiful rat out. Oh, trick though? Or it's just their food? It's just their food holding there. Nice. Excellent stuff from rat out. And here's another lifelinker. They're only going to have a 1/3 and a 6/6 trample untapping here against this wide of a board state. We can tap down one of their blockers and draw a card while we do it. I'm going to be dumping mana into Ice Rot Sentry here, so let's get that Barrow Naughty chump, because I'm not going to have the mana to dump into trying to get Curiosity triggers off of it anyway, so let's just get rid of Stab Wound. I'll take the extra 1 damage here rather than maybe get got by a combat trick. They play any blockers here. We tap the blocker, draw a card, buff the sentry, stuff like that. I mean, if they have another creature to play, it's weirdly possible that their best play is to just pass here. Because if they don't have an untapped creature, we can't draw a card, we can't give Ice Rot Sentry +2/+1. They actually do blank a good amount of stuff by not having an untapped creature. But that would still stop them from playing a creature here. Okay, so they do play a Gingerbread Hunter, so we can just tap that down. Hit for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not lethal at all, so we need to not die on the crackback, and then they're going to have several food tokens. I mean, so we definitely got to send the Sentry, and it's got Vigilance, so it'll still be up on blocks. And it's going to draw us a card. It's going to buff itself. Even if I play my land pre-combat, I'll only have the mana up to buff one of the Naughties regardless, so we'll hold on to the land and see what we draw here. So go to combat. This can't block. This has Vigilance. Don't really want to do any blocking with Charade. Might be just chumping with like a Snare Master. Chump there. Take a lot, but I'm gaining some life here. I think this is fine. See what we get. Into the Fey Court. So we'll be casting that here. Rather than hitting for 1 more damage. With the Baronati. Okay. If I don't just die this turn, if chumping with a Snare Master is enough, then I think we're in a really nice position. We'll see what they top decked. On board, I go to 1 if I do this. I take 12, right? 6 from Glutton, 5 from Scavenger, and 1 from Root Rider. So I can do this. If they top decked like literal Titanic Growth, we're dead. If they top decked Sweet Tooth Witch, we're dead. I think this is our best block. Keep the Ice Rot Sentry around because it does so much if this game goes on another turn. It's huge. And they're at essentially 12 if they eat all their food, so I think we do need to be thinking about keeping a solid board state for if the game does go another turn longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. 5 for Charade and 4 for Threadbind because we don't have a plane, so I can't play Charade and Threadbind, which I guess isn't that big of a deal since Charade's legendary anyway. So we're just going to be using Threadbind here, and we're not drawing any extra cards. So we know exactly what the hand is here. So it's going to be 1 mana Dream Thief, 3 mana Rip the Seams. That's 4 of our mana out of 8. We're going to Rip the Seams the Trampler so that I can chump with everybody. And I think we do it right now to just make sure they don't have the Hexproof trick. Right, if they have the Hexproof trick, we need to know immediately to know how we need to be blocking here. Okay, they don't have the Hexproof trick, so we know there's not going to be any trample. So at 5 life, I realistically just need to block here and block here. So we want a Dream Thief little chumper, for sure. Then I guess Charade at this point can be our other chumper. Because we can get lifelink off the Baronati by sending it in now. Which is a big deal. I guess the Ice Rot Sentry can be the chumper too. Actually, sure, Ice Rot can be the chumper too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can force them to eat both their food on this attack. I think that's worth it. Activate the Naughty, and now they have to eat the next food. So they have no food to buff the Scavenger on attacks anymore, and we're going to be going to 8 with 2 blockers up. Looks pretty good. Still a lot of combat tricks that could just kill us. They draw the monster roll at instant speed thing. Then if I block the Gingerbread Hunter with my 1/1 Dream Thief and the Root Rider with my Sentry, that'd be lethal, because they would make the Hunter a 6 power trampler. It would trample for 5 and Scavenger would hit for 3, that'd be exactly 8. They have the instant speed, put a +1/+1 monster roll onto something. This game could very well still get away from us, as solid as it looks here. But also just like bombs and stuff they could hit, that would be bad. Although if they just go like Forest Gruff Triplets, or actually they have triple green because Root Rider Fawn. If they just play Gruff Triplets, I think we still just win because Flyers. So like the best bomb in the format doesn't win, but other bombs are really good in this position. So there's a Lord Skitter's Butcher for Menace, would be really scary. But they wouldn't do that unless they're going to kill us here, so... I would poop myself if they choose Menace. I don't think that's going to be the choice, though. Yeah, okay. Sack the 1/3, scry 2, and draw a card. We get to keep our intestines healthy for now. See what they find, though. It's got to be good. They're at 3 life, facing way more than 3 damage in the sky. Scry both to the bottom and draw a card. And they don't find an answer. That is going to be a 7-win trophy run with this very sweet blue-black fairies deck. A really fun one, a really interesting, unique one as well because of that splashing for just some cross-archetype synergy to be this kind of hybrid deck a little bit where we're mostly a blue deck here. We didn't see a ton of black being super duper open, and part of that was self-imposed, passing the signpost uncommon for blue-black fairies. We probably could have been a pretty streamlined blue-black fairies deck if I had just instantly hopped on that train after the Talion's Messenger. But I'm perfectly happy with how this Edgewall in played. That played excellently in every game we drew it in still, and that's what we took over the fairy card. We wanted to stay a little more open here, and it ended in a more interesting deck, even if it might be a weaker one overall than if we were super streamlined. Because we had this nice little hybrid deck where the main core of the deck is just a bunch of nice blue flyers and stuff, but we've got the splashy adventure cards for 2-for-1 removal spells where we can blow up a creature and play our own creature later with Threadbind and Gingerbread Hunter off of all these Crystal Grottos and maybe an Edgewall in. And then that hybrid deck where we're a blue-black fairies deck and a blue-white tap deck because we're just getting a bunch of extra charade value off of Snaremaster Sprites, and sometimes the Ice Rot Sentry or the Vantress Transmuter as well. So the Snaremaster Sprite, kind of a linchpin of the deck, being solid with the blue-black fairies half, and solid with the blue-white charade tap-down half. So, very interesting stuff today. Very cool deck. Very nice one to be able to get a trophy run with. I will say, for overperformers and underperformers, pretty much everything was great. Everything was an overperformer. Even the Tangled Colony that I was heavily considering cutting because I was like, I don't think we're that aggressive, did play pretty well. It won us one game that we had no business winning because our opponent used a fight spell removal on it with a 6-power creature. So they buffed it up to 7 power and traded and gave me 7 rats. So, I mean, that game alone was unwinnable if we didn't have Tangled Colony. So kind of earned its spot off of that alone. But plenty of other games were just traded off, found us a couple rats, and played perfectly fine there. So, yeah, really happy with everything in the deck. Biggest things that I'm unhappy about, really just kind of gameplay errors, user error things, but didn't stack up enough to keep us away from the 7-win trophy run. I think I just need to get a lot better with counter spells and stuff. This is why I don't tend to draft controlling strategies too often, but I'm trying to do it a little more often and try to get better at the gameplay aspect of drafting. I think that is somewhere that I do falter quite a bit, but super happy with everything about the deck. It was a really fun one, and it's kind of impossible to be unhappy when you get a full-on 7-win max prizes trophy run. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you're interested in seeing some more videos like this, you can always like and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check me out at the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, where I am live every Wednesday. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.